Hi, I'm Greg Hallett, and I want to take a few minutes and just talk about two bars, two measures of a simple hymn, and we're going to cover a few things that you can do over those two bars to make it a little more special. This is a very popular song called I Surrender All, and you can see the music in front of you. We're going to talk about that in just a second. By the way, I want to mention the patch really quick. I had eye surgery last month, and still recovering. The eye is doing well, but I still enjoy. Light gets in there, and it's just a little bit confusing and unnerving. So I like keeping a patch on. Plus, it doesn't look that great. So I'm not making you look at the eye underneath. But that's going well. Thanks for all your comments and concern about my eye in the past few months. We want to talk about these two bars now. Now, this is the last phrase of I Surrender All, the last 4 bars. I Surrender All is a very typical hymn, 16 bars long, 4 phrases of 4 bars. Okay, so the last phrase goes like this. Okay, and we're just going to be talking about the first 4, or the first 2 bars of that last phrase. So this right here, that's it. Okay, now the first thing we'll talk about really quick is the harmony that you see in front of you. This is a step progression. I've talked about this a lot in the past, the idea that chords like to move in steps. And this is sort of a step progression on steroids here, because I'm moving all the way from the D, all the way to 5, which is A, and I'm going to do it by a half step. So we're going to go through 8 different chords over those 2 bars. So we start on the 1 chord, and then we move to sharp 1 diminished, minor 2, sharp 2 diminished, minor 3, 4, sharp 4 diminished, and 5. Okay? Now, the reason, some of you may wonder, what are these sharp 2s and sharp 1 diminished chords? Those are what I call crack chords. Now, I'm the only one that I know that calls them crack chords, but I use that term because it means they fill in the cracks between these diatonic chords. Like 1 to 2, there's a crack chord in the middle. Fill in the crack. 1, sharp 1, 2. Same thing happens between 2 and 3. There's no crack between 3 and 4, and then 4 to 5. So we have 3 crack chords in here, and those are diminished 7th chords. Now, some of you that are theory purists will undoubtedly complain about what I'm just saying. You'll say, Greg, those are not really diminished 7th chords. They're really secondary dominants in disguise. And I know that's true. The sharp 1 diminished 7 is really technically a 5 of 2. However, let's not confuse the issue. Let's just call it a diminished 7, and that's fine. Those of you that didn't understand anything I just said, don't worry. It's not important at this stage. But this is how this goes. Let's play it really quick. Okay, we'll do it again, and I'll give you the chords. Oh, well, we start on D, the 1 chord. D sharp minor 7, E minor 7, F diminished 7, F sharp minor 7, G sharp diminished 7, and then we're moving to, we're technically calling that a 1 over 5. The important thing is the bass note is a 5, but it's really a 1 over 5. By the way, don't tell me I got an out of tune note up there. It's bad. I'm staying low. It's hard to get this piano in tune. I just moved it into this studio, and having to tune it all the time because it's adjusting to the humidity. All right, so there you go with that. That is a progression. It's not the right progression there. It's not necessarily the best one. It is not anything other than my progression. The way I like to play this kind of music. I use this kind of progression all the time. You can use it here. You can use it anywhere where you find a melody line to fit it. Second thing to talk about here is these grace notes. Now, I use grace notes a lot in my music, and I use them for the same reason that musicians have used grace notes for centuries, many centuries. And I use them for ornamentation, the same reason they've always been used. And they're a really nice way just to give a little more to the song. Now, you might ask, how do you come up with the notes that you're going to ornament with? And in this case, I'm just playing little 2-note grace note runs, and they're diatonic, which means they belong to the key. So you could start on the note that your destination note and then just go up 2 notes based on the scale of the key. In this case, we're in D major. So if our destination is F sharp, we would play A and G. But that being said, there's nothing to say that that ornamentation has to be diatonic. That's a chromatic instead, and that sounds good. It's all about your personal style, what you enjoy. Doesn't have to be 2 notes. It can be a lot of notes. It could be... The problem is when you start doing a very fancy ornamentation, all of a sudden the piece becomes about ornamentation, and you lose the melody. So you want to be careful about that. But ornamentation is a great thing to use in your music. One other thing I want to point out here is in the second bar, which is this F sharp minor 7. Notice I'm doing inner voicing there, inner voice movement. And I like to use that a lot as opposed to some of the more traditional things people might use to fill up that space. Inner voice movement on the tenor line. Now technically this isn't a tenor line because this is not a choral piece, but I still think about music sort of in 4 parts. There's the melody line, and there's a bass line, and then you have sort of 2 other areas that are sort of run by the thumbs and the first finger where you can play these really nice lines, and I use that a lot. That's one place. A really nice thing to do. That's easier than you think to start incorporating that in your music. You just play normally diatonic lines to sort of fill up that space. Okay, main thing on the song like this, or any song pretty much, is you need to watch the melody, and I've accented the melody here. No matter how fancy the harmony gets or the ornamentation gets, the melody needs to be out front. I accented that in here in this music that you see to make sure you see the melody with those little dash lines. And the other thing, by the way, is try to keep those the melody consistent in terms of the register. Now, as pianists, we sometimes start doing all these gymnastics on the piano. You know what I mean? Fancy stuff. And it starts making us change where we play the melody. For example, we might do this. I need to remember the melody myself. Let's do it, but you get the idea. Basically, you have these things going on where all of a sudden you're moving the melody around. Don't do that if you possibly can help it. Just play the melody in the same register and make the mechanical things you do work for that, you know, with that goal in mind, as opposed to letting the mechanics force the melody all over the place and in different registers. That's it on this song. Hope that helped you. I hope to see you again in future videos.